Hello and very welcome to this special edition of the podcast Uttafor, men Innafor, delivered to you by the Greater Oslo Area Parkinson's Disease Association. Co-hosts Miss Serlin Erlandsen and Edgar Waldmanis. Good morning to all, or good afternoon, whatever it is. We are here from the Uttafor, men Innafor podcasting studio, and today we have a special guest. It's Dr. Todd Sherer, the Chief Mission Officer of Michael J. Fox Foundation. Hello, Todd. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Good. Busy people have tight schedules, so we'll jump straight in. Could you explain your role, the Chief Mission Officer, and how you actually became interested in neuroscience and Parkinson's disease?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been at the Michael J. Fox Foundation now for about 20 years. My background is in neuroscience. I have a PhD in neuroscience from the University of Virginia. I was interested in neuroscience. Actually, when I started in college, there wasn't really neuroscience. It was at the time called biological psychology. So I was trying to understand the biological basis for behavior. And I got very interested in understanding that. And when I started my graduate school work, I found I really wanted to have an application for my research. And believe it or not, at the time, I thought Parkinson's disease would be an easy disease to treat because we knew that it was a targeted effect in the brain. A very small number of cells in the substantia nigra brain region were affected in the disease. And I thought it could be quite simple to keep those cells functioning. And of course, that's now 30 years ago of working on this. The disease, as we know, is much more complicated than that. And I started the Fox Foundation in 2004. And for many years, I've been involved in our research efforts at the foundation to try to select the most promising areas of research that can help to advance Parkinson's therapies. For 10 years, I was the CEO of the foundation, and about 2 years ago, moved back to my passion in the programmatic and research area. And as the Chief Mission Officer, I oversee the direction and strategy for our research efforts.
Right. Michael J. What does the J actually stand for?
I think it's just J. Yeah, his name's actually Michael Andrew Fox, and I think when he went to become an actor, he switched that because there was some overlap with other actors. So to be distinctive, he adopted the J.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's it like working for a movie star when you're actually deep in neuroscience?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating at the foundation because, as I'm sure you know, Michael has Parkinson's disease and has had it for many, many years. So he's quite focused on the mission, not only to help the whole community of Parkinson's patients, but he's interested in the research as a patient himself. And I think that it has, over the years, a number of things I think have come out of this unfortunate diagnosis that he had. One was just the attention that he's brought to the disease and the ability to have people understand, if they have Parkinson's or if a relative or loved one has Parkinson's, what that actually means. And then really shining a spotlight on the needs from what research could deliver for patients. So he remains quite focused on this, solutions through research and really promoting, risk taking, because as a patient, we want to really move the needle as quickly as possible for Parkinson's patients.
Right. Is there a fun fact about you that most of our listeners would not know and that you would...
Fun fact about me. Let's see, I'm a scientist. We don't have a lot of fun usually. Well, I actually let's see, what have I done that has been fun? I mean, I'm currently coaching a 7th grade girls basketball team. And despite how analytical I like to be as a scientist, that seems to go out the window in trying to deal with 10 7th grade girls of trying to organize that team into a unified effort. That's been quite fun. We've only had a few practices so far, but I'm really enjoying it.
Cool.
Right. How tall are you yourself?
I am 5'6", so not known as a basketball player, although I did play in growing up. So I'm much more focused on passing it to taller people.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I think that counts for a fun fact. All right. We are the reason we've invited you and a couple of others is that the 4 of you wrote a book called Ending Parkinson's Disease, which came out in 2020. Can you explain a bit about the book for those of our listeners who have not actually read it, but may have heard about it?
Yeah, I think our main goal in writing the book was really to draw attention to Parkinson's disease, which is still not, I think, well known. And unfortunately, Parkinson's disease, in terms of the number of patients, seems to be increasing quite dramatically. And it is an age-related disease. So you would anticipate that the number of patients with Parkinson's would increase as the population is aging. But we actually are finding that it's increasing above and beyond what you would predict just by the demographics of the population. So this leads us to try to understand why that's the case. And we do think there's some environmental and lifestyle issues that are probably related to the number of people getting Parkinson's. But also then, given the number of people being affected by the disease, trying to galvanize and encourage society, the research community, governments to do more to help treat people with the disease now and invest in new treatments. So the real goal of this book was to draw attention to all of these issues, as Parkinson's has really been underappreciated, unfortunately, I think, by society to date.
In the book, to follow on what you're saying, in the book you predict a doubling, if I remember right, from 2016, is it, to 2040?
Yeah, I mean, the predictions on the epidemiology are stark. It's definitely, we're seeing an increase in not just Parkinson's disease, but Parkinson's related disorders. And it seems to be going up, pointing to maybe some of these environmental or lifestyle factors that could be leading to the disease, because there are genetic components of Parkinson's, but the genetics of society are not changing at that rate in that short time frame. So there must be other factors that are at play here.
And you said lifestyle related. That's kind of new to me. Most people say it's not lifestyle related. So it's not like someone getting diabetes too because they are obese and they eat the wrong things and etc. Or smoke and get lung cancer. But you say there are lifestyle related components to Parkinson's.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view that broadly. So we believe that there are chemical and environmental factors that are involved. And some of the exposures that we get can be managed through changes in your lifestyle, like pesticide exposures and the types of foods people are eating. So I think that I'm defining that a little bit more broadly,
right,
in terms of just how we're living our lives, not sort of an individual basis, but pollution, pesticides, chemicals, these are things that we're getting exposed to through our lives.
If we want it or not.
Whether we want to or not. We can try to do some things to limit them, but some of them are out of our control. Even if you look at some of the components in the food and the plastics and things like that we're exposed to.
So you always stay inside then? You never go out so you don't get exposed?
Yeah, but it still could be in your food, and who knows what's even in the air, we're breathing. So it's,
Yes. In an earlier episode, Ray Dorsey was on talking about the dry cleaners. So you could just, wear cottons and natural fibers that you could wash, sit inside, that don't go to the dry cleaners.
Yeah, I think the issue is with things like that are also when there are chemical plants or places that are using chemicals.
Yeah.
How is it being disposed of, and does it get into the soil or the drinking water in that area? Where it becomes difficult to avoid it.
Yeah.
If you're living near it's one thing, obviously, if you're working directly with the material, trying to be as careful as you possibly can to limit your exposures. But I think some of these chemicals have become so pervasive in the environment that we need to take more dramatic actions to try to limit their exposures to people.
Yeah. So what was your role as a co-author of the book?
I focused mostly on the research component. So when I was in the laboratory, I actually studied the effects of pesticides on the nervous system. So some of the research I was involved in looked at a chemical known as rotenone, which is used in agriculture, and the effects in animals of that chemical and how it could lead to Parkinson's-like features in the animals, and particularly targeting the brain systems that are affected in the disease. So I focused a lot on, some of the research evidence and then future directions where the research should be going.
Right. Could you tell our listeners about what excites you about the latest Parkinson's research?
Yeah, actually, we are, I think, seeing a lot of momentum right now in Parkinson's research. So it's been about 10 to 20 years since the first genetic components of Parkinson's were discovered. And what's interesting and exciting about that is that it pinpointed some very specific biological pathways that we could target for therapies. And it's been found that some of those same pathways are involved in individuals who have have these genetic components of Parkinson's, but also those that do not. So there's some commonalities of pathways. And a lot of that research has now led to new treatments that are being tested in clinical trials. So what's exciting and important about this is that we might be targeting the actual underlying disease process. So Parkinson's as a progressive disease, most of the current treatments can manage the symptoms, but the underlying disease continues to progress. So it's quite exciting that we now have a portfolio of different types of therapies that are being tested to target the underlying disease. So I think that would be obviously a huge breakthrough if we could slow the progression or even forestall the progression.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that's come out quite recently, which is really exciting, is the ability to now identify people where the disease biology is active before any symptoms have become present. So we've hypothesized for years that the biological changes related to Parkinson's predate the onset of symptoms for quite some time. It's not that you wake up one day and have Parkinson's. Something has been going on in the individual's body for some time, and their body has been able to kind of compensate for that until you see the first motor symptoms. And we now have the ability with some new testing to find people at that stage of disease where the disease process is happening, but they're yet to have any symptoms. And this would be quite exciting if we could now target and intervene at that stage and even forestall the onset of symptoms. So that's something that's probably just come out in the last couple of years, but there's now been a number of scientific conferences that have started to plan for what they would call a prevention study, which is to find people where the disease process has started, but they're yet to have symptoms, and you might be able to intervene at that stage. And that would be really, really obviously important for people, who have that underlying disease.
Definitely, but how would you find those people? I mean, if I walk into my doctor's office and say it's time for my annual checkup, which is something lots of people do anyways, they say, "Oh, it's late October. I should go to my physician and do my annual checkup, and takes your blood pressure and a few blood tests, sends them off to the lab. They say, oh, everything's fine about Edgar's blood. All the vitamins, cholesterol is okay, everything check. How would you actually then catch up with those people who have...
Yeah, so this is something that's been coming out in the last couple of years with research. The foundation has been supporting this study called the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative. And what the researchers who lead that study have been doing is developing and validating some tests that in the future could be used in those types of doctor visits. So one of the things that they have found is using a smell test. They could, if you identify individuals who have extremely poor sense of smell, those are and I should say poor sense of smell, not people that smell bad. I've made that mistake. So if someone that has a very poor sense of smell, they could then be, at risk for developing a neurodegenerative disease like Parkinson's. What recently has been developed is right now it's a test that would be done in spinal fluid, but it's being worked on to improve, is a test that could identify the presence of alpha-synuclein pathology. So alpha-synuclein is one of the proteins that has been used over the years to help diagnose Parkinson's disease in the brains of individuals after they die of Parkinson's. There is now a test that could identify the presence of abnormal alpha-synuclein in a living individual in their spinal fluid. And the third test that exists is a brain imaging scan that could look at dopamine activity. So we know there's reduced dopamine function in people with Parkinson's, and there's a brain imaging test that could look at dopamine. So right now, these are the three kind of tiers of testing that could be done to identify these individuals. If you have a loss of sense of smell, you have evidence of dopamine loss or function loss, and the presence of alpha-synuclein. We have more work to do to improve these tests where they could be utilized, as Edgar was suggesting, in an average doctor's visit. But right now they are able to be done in more of a research study, at a clinical center. So this is moving forward, and these tests are important because it's been so hard to diagnose Parkinson's over the years. So it's having more, objective laboratory tests or imaging tests will really be critical to advancing the field.
And then if you could apply these to my annual doctor's visit, then there could possibly also find a cure or something to at least...
That would be the goal. Would be ideally, if we project out into the future, you would be able to run clinical test trials in people at this stage, where they've been identified at having the biology but no symptoms, and ultimately then if a treatment was successful, you could start prophylactically treating people at that stage to forestall the onset of the symptoms. And, you were mentioning other diseases. I mean, that's what has been successful for like cardiovascular disease, where if they see that you have high blood pressure, they can start to treat you before you have the cardiac event. They just treat you based on that laboratory test that's done at the office. So that's the model we're looking to try to apply to Parkinson's. Of course, Parkinson's, it's quite complex in terms of the disease to identify these tests and the treatments.
Right. So that is actually the way forward for the next 5 to 10 years of Parkinson's research.
I think this is a big component. These tests are also being applied to the Parkinson's people who already have the motor symptoms or have been diagnosed with Parkinson's, because the other thing that's a real area for going forward is that we've always seen that Parkinson's can be quite variable. Some people, for example, have slow progression. Some people seem to have more rapid progression. The components or the whole holistic components of the symptoms can vary across patients. And now we're having more success in trying to link that variability to actual differences in the biology. And then you can have more targeted treatments to those individuals so that you have a greater chance of success. So if you could segment that population and have patients that are more similar and test them, it's a greater chance of success of your treatment.
Excellent. How could patients and families get involved with the Michael J. Fox Foundation?
So the best way to start would probably be to go to the website for the foundation. The foundation offers a lot of educational information about the disease. There are also frequent webinars that talk about different components of the disease, both the research, living with Parkinson's. So I think that would be a great initial component. The other thing the foundation does do is have some tools on our website for people that are interested in getting involved in research. The only way we can answer some of these questions about Parkinson's is really from people who have Parkinson's. When I was in the lab, I could do all I want with test tubes and with animals, but it needs to link to what's actually happening in the disease. And the only people that know what's happening in the disease really are the people with Parkinson's or those who care for them. So there are tools on the website for trying to find what research is going on, in your country or in your location, so that you can try to get involved there as well. And actually, some of the research you could do online. You don't even have to go anywhere. You could just fill out surveys and questionnaires so that we can understand more. What is it like to live with Parkinson's? What is bothering people the most? What should we be targeting the research towards? What aspects of the disease need to be improved? Right.
I think it's correct that one of our researchers, Dr. Haralampos Tsoulis, kind of difficult name there. He's actually Greek, but living in Norway for a number of years now. Some of his research is sponsored by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. How could other researchers achieve the same? I'm being selfish now on behalf of all the Norwegian research community.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things. So that study I mentioned, the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, has over the years had a research center in Norway that's part of that study. And the foundation also has, we are very agnostic about who and where the breakthroughs will come from. So we have throughout the year periodic open competitions, worldwide competitions for researchers to submit their best ideas. Though the Fox Foundation is located in the United States, over the years, over 30% of the funding has gone outside of the United States to researchers in Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. So it's if you have a good idea and you're a researcher, please do send it in, because we're looking for innovation wherever it comes from.
Good. I hope the Norwegian researchers that are listening are taking this hint and would send in applications for funding, because as you say, it's not really where it happens. In my mind, being a patient myself, again, I'm a bit selfish and saying I don't care where it comes from, as long as it comes, as long as we're moving forward.
Yeah, and even what we try to do at the foundation is also promote an environment of collaboration across the researchers, across geographies, because we want everyone working together towards this treatment. There's no no reason to be competitive. We want to move these results as quickly as possible. So share our results, learn from failures. A lot of research is a failure, but you have to learn from that failure. I'm sure this analogy may not resonate with this audience, but in Major League Baseball, the baseball in the United States, you could get into the Hall of Fame if you get a hit 3 out of every 10 times when you go to bat. That's what research is like, but you have to learn from those 7 times you didn't get out to give yourself the better chance of getting a hit the next time. So that's why we promote a lot of communication among the researchers so that they don't, replicate and go down empty alleyways when we only had limited resources also to support the research.
Yeah. About what you said about the word failure, I actually heard there is a Thomas Alva Edison quote. When he finally got the light bulb to work, someone said, how many tests have we made? And he said, roughly 10,000. And then the other person says, oh, so it's been a failure most of the time. And he says, no, it wasn't a failure. I just found 9,999 ways not to work
Right, exactly.
the light bulb. So I think that's quite relevant. We're getting toward the end of our quick talk here, Todd. Have you got a motto or a quote that you live by?
One thing that at least on the research side, one thing that I have always promoted for the foundation is scientists will spend a lot of time, like if you submit an application or something, you frequently will get a response that said, this was a well-written application. I have a few comments. And then the comments are like 70 comments about sort of what could be improved. And I really try to promote at the foundation, yes, if, as opposed to no, because. So you could take that and say, well, your application in this, example has limitations, but if X, Y, or Z, this could really work. It's so much easier to say this will not work for this 50 reasons because we've never had a transformative treatment, for Parkinson's, a breakthrough that we're all looking for beyond, the dopamine treatments. So no one has gone out of business saying that none of these things will work, but we need them to work. So yes, they will work if we could figure out these components. So it's really trying to be more optimistic and assertive about the opportunities and problem solve instead of just being passive and responsive. So I think it's a mindset that we try to bring to the field, that this is achievable if we all work together and we really focus on what the roadblocks are and try to overcome them.
Excellent. Absolutely final question here. Definitely on the lighter side. Who would you invite to dinner and where?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm a huge, I went to undergraduate at Duke University. So you may know our famous basketball coach, Coach K. Maybe not. He was our Olympic coach. And I would love to have dinner with him. He has incredible thoughts on leadership and team building. And I'd also like to get some inside information on what really those teams are.
And where would that take place?
I guess I don't have a real preference. So somewhere outside with in nice weather, maybe in Rome or something with some nice Italian food and wine.
Perfect.
Good. Thank you for taking the time out of a busy schedule today, Todd.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, nice to meet you.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ja, hva syns du da, Edgar?
Jeg syns dette var veldig, veldig bra.
Ja, vi skal kanskje gi beskjed til lytterne at nå skal meg og deg oppsummere.
Da skal vi si at vi tar en rask oppsummering av praten vi hadde med Dr. Todd Sherer, som også noe som kalles Chief Mission Officer i Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Forstod du hva Chief Mission Officer
at han hovedansvarlig for kursen fremover, strategien,
Yes.
og holde, altså jeg tenker alltid på Blues Brothers, som sa at we're on a mission from God,
Ja.
da de skulle få bandet tilbake på veien, og skaffe penger til klosterskolen de hadde gått på. Og det jo det Todd ansvarlig for, da, at man holder stø kurs fremover i tråd med den strategien man har lagt opp.
Ja, og det jeg likte litt, det var jo også det at han var CEO, altså han var sjef.
Ja, i 10 år.
I 10 år, men så det liksom noe med å komme tilbake igjen til utgangspunktet og være i research, altså være i feltet.
Ja.
Og det beundrer jeg alltid i mennesker, for det så mange som når de først har fått de der fine titlene sine, så går de aldri tilbake.
Nei, nemlig. Men han gjorde det, og det synes jeg stilig. Han har jo faktisk da vært involvert i bedriften, hvis vi skal kalle det en bedrift. Det kan vi jo godt gjøre. Vært det siden 2004, altså i 20 år.
Sa han.
Ja. Og det var jo også interessant, han sa at Michael J. Fox selv bruker mye tid på bedriften. Og det morsomt.
Ja, det tenker jeg jo, og det gjør det nok også at de som jobber der, og engasjementet blir annerledes, fordi han engasjert selv.
Han engasjert selv. For den som ikke vet det, så altså skuespilleren Michael J. Fox verdens mest kjente Parkinson-pasient. Han fikk sykdommen, han fikk diagnosen for 30 år siden, eller det blir 31.
Husker du hvor gammel han var da?
29.
29. Men hva filmer har han spilt i da?
Han har spilt i den kjente trilogien Tilbake til fremtiden.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future spilte han i, og så har han jo spilt i 3, 4, 5 forskjellige TV-serier i USA, som har vært veldig populære. Så han har holdt koken etter disse filmene også. Spilt inn millioner av dollar, og pumpet millioner av dollar videre inn i forskning da i det som heter Michael J. Fox Foundation, altså stiftelsen Michael J. Fox.
Og det som dumt, eller som blir sånn rart, det jo at vi skulle ønske at det var flere kjendiser som hadde parkinson, men så ønsker en jo ikke at noen skal få sykdommen, men tenk hvor mye han har klart å vært loud for sykdommen, og hvor mye bra som har blitt gjort på grunn av det.
Absolutt, altså av kjendiser så det jo George Bush, den første George Bush-presidenten, som jo var president en gang på tidlig 90-tall, hadde parkinson. Pave Johannes Paul den annen heter vel han, det han polakken, som husker som ble pave, hadde parkinson. Sangeren Linda Ronstadt har parkinson, så og det finnes flere navn og nevne, men som du sier, skulle ønske at flere sto frem. I Norge kan vi jo fremsnakke Ivar Dyrhaug og Gerhard Helskog.
Absolutt.
Som jo står frem og fronter.
Ja.
Nå jo sånn at det de gjør skaffer ikke så mange millioner dollars i kassa, så det ikke så mange millioner dollar å gi videre. Men det har jo Michael gjort da. Tilbake til dagens gjest, Todd Sherer, sa at årsaken til at han engasjert jo at han også ser at dette en veldig hurtigvoksende sykdom.
Ja.
Dessverre. Og det må vi få oppmerksomhet om.
Ja, og det som han da prøvde å forklare var jo at hvordan vet vi at du ikke klarer å forutse hvor mange som kommer til å få det, men altså at de ser at det vokser raskere enn de har forutsett hvis de skulle tatt det på ren statistikk, at folk blir eldre og flere får det.
Riktig.
Men dette handler jo om at det går mye raskere, og da tar du vekk den genetiske disponenten, så har de da kommet frem til miljø og så videre.
Ja, og som han sa at da du sa at det går an å bare sitte inne da, hvis miljøet så farlig, hvis det så mye dritt i luft og vann, og så sa han, men altså den frukten, grønnsakene du spiser, du vet ikke hva slags kjemikalier man har brukt der. Det samme med dyra som går ute, eller for den saks skyld står på båsen, så dyrene også utsatt for en masse kjemikalier i luft og vann, og når de ender opp på tallerkenen vår, så disse kjemikaliene fortsatt med.
Ja. Så ja, der var en del ting vi kunne gjøre selv, og sånn som når vi hadde han andre også, så det en del ting vi kan gjøre selv, men det jo et større spørsmål. Det må jo opp et globalt eller nivå, at bedrifter, det må komme inn, at bedrifter må gjøre store endringer i forhold til utslipp.
Ja. Ellers var det jo veldig interessant det han sa om at man nå har relativt suksessrike forsøk på gang, hvor man blant annet med benmargsvæske kan ta ut benmargen og teste for sykdommen svært tidlig, før man får de vanlige symptomene. Man kan si at her det en som sterkt disponert for å få parkinson, og kan sette inn motstøt veldig tidlig, mye tidligere enn vi gjør i dag.
Ja, og jeg måtte si at jeg tenker at der var jeg litt dum, eller liksom, for meg var det sånn, hvorfor når han satt og pratet, hvorfor vil jeg vite det? Jeg har ikke lyst til å vite det. Altså, jeg kan ikke bare vente på til jeg får symptomene da. Altså, jeg har ikke lyst til å vite fremtiden min, jeg har ikke lyst til å gå til legen og vite at jeg kan få det og det. Men så det jo akkurat sånn som når vi snakket om videre da, så det jo det med, sånn som hjerteinfarkt, at du kan forebygge. Der medisiner som du da kan forebygge, som gjør at den har en helt annen sykdomsforløp. Så da snudde jeg jo litt igjen. Ja. Da skjønte jeg konseptet, hvorfor skal det inngå at det skal bli så vanlig at alle allmennleger tar det som en test, som en kolesteroltest på en årlig sjekk.
Nemlig.
Then I understand it.
Then you understand it. Ellers så var det jo et morsomt motto han hadde også, som jeg tenker vi kan avslutte med, hvor han sa at når de får inn søknader fra forskere rundt om, som sier at vi søker bistand, vi søker subsidiering, hva heter det da? Finansiering?
Ja.
Av et forskerforløp her sånn, så kan man være positiv og si at yes, dette skal vi få til, hvis ABC, i motsetning til det som veldig ofte svares, hvor man avslår søknaden og sier at beklager, det går ikke, fordi dang. Så kan man være positiv og si at yes, hvis du bare, altså endrer sånn og sånn i forskerprosessen, endre på disse komponentene, så skal du få finansiering fra Michael J. Fox. Men, og han sa jo det, at det gjorde han jo også i forhold til de som jobber på researchen, at alt generelt sett, don't kill the vibe, jeg tror det en sang som heter det, svar yes, if, i stedet for no, because. Nemlig. Det tror jeg en fin måte for alle å liksom ha i møte med mennesker generelt sett. Mer ja, mindre nei. Det mindre negativitet, og heller forklare det etterpå. Ja. Og optimisme, som gjør noe av det du og jeg opptatt av, at vi skal, i podcasten vår skal vi spre humor, optimisme og livsglede. Så nå kan du begynne å tenke sånn til konen også, i stedet for å svare nei når hun spør om noe, så sier du ja, hvis du vasker badet først. Så bare begynne. Nå det slik at hun allerede vasker badet først. Ja, det var bare et sånn eksempel on the top of my head. Jeg vet at det ikke har noe med et eksempel som passer inn hos dere, men generelt sett, ja, men hvis du... Og med det kan vi vel avslutte oppsummeringen. Det var også dagens episode i podcasten Uttafor, men Innafor, hvor vi hadde Dr. Todd Sherer som gjest i dag. Takk for at du lyttet. Yes.